Welcome to tutorial number 2 for the gravity engine. In this tutorial, we'll take a look at hierarchical orbits. We'll begin by adding a gravity engine to the scene and dragging our star prefab from the previous tutorial and the planet prefab as a child of the star. And what we see is the orbit of the planet around the star. The star has a mass of 1,000, the planet has a mass of 1. What we'll do now to show off the hierarchy is we'll take another copy of the planet prefab and drop it on the planet, and we'll rename it to be Moon. We'll change its mass to be, say, 0.1, and we'll change the size of the model of the Moon to be, say, 0.4. And looking at the Moon's orbit, we'll keep it in fairly close to the planet, so say 2 units away. And then we'll evolve and take a look at what happens. What happens is the Moon doesn't orbit the planet. It ends up in orbit around the star. And that's what gravity is making happen because the planet is not heavy enough to keep the Moon orbiting around it compared to the star. So there are a couple of things we can do to change this. First is we can take the planet and move it a little farther away from the star. So the place where the Moon is orbiting is further out. The Moon gets less force from the star. And we can make the planet a little bit heavier, so let's make it, say, 5. And if we press play now, this is enough to keep the Moon in orbit around the planet, but in a fairly eccentric orbit and a little bit of an irregular orbit. And actually over time it escapes. And again, what we're seeing is the real gravitational physics of the situation. However, it may be that the gravitational physics is not really what your game needs, and if what you need for your game scene is to have the Moon orbit the planet, you don't want to worry about changing all of the masses. The orbit ellipse has an evolution mode that can force it to stay in the shape that's described using Kepler's equation instead of using gravitational calculations. And so when we change the Moon's orbit under orbit ellipse here to use Kepler's equation and then press play, the gravity engine, instead of using gravity to calculate the orbit, will use the Kepler's equation and the Moon will actually orbit smoothly around the planet. It's not what gravity would actually do, but it might be what you wanted in your game scene. And you could do a similar thing with a hierarchy of planets around the star if you wish to. And this hierarchy can continue if you wanted to have a Moon around the Moon. You could grab another planet and make it a child of the Moon, and you could add as many levels as you wish to the hierarchy. The gravity engine doesn't impose any limits. Thanks for watching.